Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is Paul with Laura, and it's Wednesday night, and we just wanted to come here and say hello to everybody. We wanted to talk about some stuff that we've been realizing and seeing lately. So we wanted to discuss this topic with you because it's definitely a topic that gets people stirred up. So we want to make sure this is working correctly. Let's see this on. Okay, wonderful. Hello, everybody. All right, welcome. All right, so we first, before we get started, I want to remind everybody, and I'll tell you again, this is a live video, so we have some live events coming up, and coming up in the 25th and 26th is United in Yahweh's Battle Cry event, and June 25th and June 26th. You can go to their website, unitedinyah.org. And you could sign up for this wonderful event. It's going to help orphan and widows everywhere around the world, and it's going to be a great event. I'm going to be speaking there, and looking forward to it. And actually, one of the topics they're going to have me speaking about is a topic that so many people don't like talking about, and it's a topic of modesty. And I wanted to make this video because we've been in ministry for quite a while here, and yes, it's late for the East Coast, but not for the West Coast, right? And it is late, and normally I'd be wanting to go to sleep now, but this has been so on my heart, and I really wanted to find a moment to talk about this because I'm seeing this problem getting worse and worse. Yep. And it's really helping me now to have a modest woman in my life that's kind of adding accountability to my life, which I didn't have ever. And you know, we either become like the people around or they become like us, and it's not good to have, I don't want to call it immodest company as much as I'll say immodest thinking or people, because modesty, it's a spiritual battle that's going on, or the immodesty that's happening out there today. And when it's a spiritual battle. So when we talk about modesty, because Sister Laura also has a YouTube channel, and she has videos about modesty. And when we talk about modesty, it's not that we want people to just agree with us and say, oh, well, we agree, so right on. And it's not that. And we certainly not looking for people to come against us, which so many people do. But I really think the people that have made such a difference in their life are people that have said they saw something we said and they realized that they were the ones that were guilty of these things that we're discussing, which we believe are biblical topics. And it really makes them question what they were doing, or made them question what they're doing. So we're not here to convince or change people's mind. We're not here to get in debates or arguments. But for those people that say, well, the Bible really doesn't say what modesty is or isn't, or how we should dress or not dress and all this stuff, and looking for excuses to be immodest, you know, we're here to just, like what Yahweh tells us to do, is to judge righteously, not to knock people down, but to lift them up. But recently we got a reply to, or Sister Laura got a reply to one of her videos, and it's just stirred up what I've been seeing all over the place. And I think Yahweh's doing something here special, because you know, everyone's immodest out there today. A lot of people are immodest, and I talk about this a lot. You talk about this a lot, but for some reason, and I don't think it's a bad thing spiritually, but for some reason, I think Yahweh wants us to talk about this even more now, more than ever. I mean, this last week, these last couple of days, I think I've seen more immodest people than I've seen in a long time. You know, it just like seems like everyone to a degree is immodest. And it's not that our standards are so high and extreme. I believe that they're biblical. But tell everybody the reply that you had to this.
At the top of my head, I can't remember. Can we read it? Do you have it up here somewhere?
Yes. Here it is.
It's a pretty.
You can go to just some of the parts that spoke about.
There is no one verse that tells us where makeup came from. I will not waste more of my time on your videos. Fair enough. I'm not sure if you're a Christian or Jew, can't tell, but taking things too extreme is not okay, because you fooled yourself by thinking this is a good thing. Like somehow your over the top modesty is making you more special than the rest of us, which I actually don't believe or think, but I do want everyone to be modest. So, and yeah, she mentioned that I'm taking my beliefs more from the Muslims and still keeping it in my life. Yeah, once again, no Bible verses apparently that I never said who created makeup. So, how can I possibly know? And yeah.
Yeah, so basically, just so everyone knows where we're coming at is Sister Laura and I, growing up in our lives, was certainly not modest. I probably was one of the most immodest people you'll ever meet. And we understand that side of it. We understand. And when I did it, I didn't think like I'm going to go out of my house and I want to be immodest. And even when I read the Bible, I wasn't like immediately convinced that, oh, I'm doing something that's immodest. And it might be doing things now that maybe are immodest, and we all have our struggles, and we need to talk about our struggles. And we also need to talk about our, the things we've overcome. And with the whole idea with do not judge one person if you're suffering from the same thing, because, well, why tell somebody about a splinter in their eye if you have a log in your eye? And it's really true. And the modesty thing is a problem. And I'll be honest with everyone, I do struggle with it because I'm a man, and people don't understand how men are built. Women don't understand how men are built. And it's just the defense, or all of a sudden they get defensive, like, I'm not guilty, why are you pointing to me? The man should get his mind out of the gutter. And I always say women should stop dressing like they're from the gutter. And so me, it's a double-edged sword, because the more I speak about it and the more accountability I have, it helps me. But at the same time, I don't want to even give it a thought, but I know what's going on, and I'm more aware of a lot of different things out there. And I have to say, I've surrounded myself with a lot of immodest people, and the more modest people I hang out with, and definitely since we got married, it's just has taken my idea of it to the next level, because it tells us about I guess it's accountability to a degree, but it's just, man, it's a beautiful thing to have a modest wife who really cares about these different things. But it's a struggle for me in a way of not like in a lustful way as much as an anger way. Like, I don't want to have any anger in my life. I don't want to have anger in my life, because I know the Holy Spirit's not involved when there's a certain type of anger. But the more I see it now, it's becoming, it's something I'm struggling with. It's becoming an anger issue. It's like a disrespect to not just Yahweh's word, but just to our brothers and our sisters, just disrespectful. What emotions do you feel? Because I sense some anger or
Yep.
some. And it's not like, again, judgment to knock somebody down, but frustration would be a better word. Let me take that back. Frustration would be a better word, but we are supposed to be in joy. So even, I want to be in joy at all times. I don't want to be frustrated, but is that a good word to describe what you feel when you see, like, everywhere you turn there's an immodest person? Yep. And not just women, men as well. I mean, it's men as well. Yep. So yeah, so
it is very frustrating. I do get very, very annoyed. I start rolling my eyes and all the rest. But I think, having said that, what gets me even more is believers dressing the exact same way too, and making excuses as to why they can still continue dressing that way, or being offended when you do tell them off in a way.
Yeah. But, and some people just don't know what immodest is. They really don't know.
Definitions and
I have a good little book here I want to I want to just help people understand and describe what immodesty is and why it's an issue. But if everyone wants to express how they feel when they see this, somebody's talking about Jezebel and painted our eyes and so on. Do you think makeup is immodest 100% of the times, or do you think it could ever be used in a modest way?
Well, I mean, I did a video on makeup many months ago where I did speak about where makeup did come from. So I was like totally against it. But I do see that, some people may have like scars or acne or whatever, or just kind of insecure in themselves. So they sort of put it on for that reason. But I don't think it needs to be heavy makeup, whereas, you look totally different. I think if you want to cover up scars or something like that, then that's perhaps appropriate. Or okay, so to say. But yeah, I mean, I used to be very against it. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
Each
think
to their
if
own.
somebody has a scar or something, it's one thing, but the whole idea of the word make up, it's right there in the name. It's so against biblical principles. Make up. We're going to make up ourselves to be something different and put this temporary tattoo on our face every day to make us look different than we should be. But I don't think people are doing that as the intent. And I say all the time that the intent doesn't cancel out the appearance.
Exactly.
So a lot of, in defense, a lot of women say, well, I'm not trying to attract other men but your intent doesn't cancel out your appearance. And it's an important thing. And this is a spiritual battle all the way, because I mean, there are literally divorces happening because women are dressing immodest, and men are guilty of dressing immodest these days as well. And it's
allowing their wives to dress that way too.
Yeah, exactly. Now that'll upset a lot of people when they hear that. Sister Laura just said, and allowing their wives to dress immodest. And now
it's like some people, I've heard people saying, well, I want my wife to look beautiful or pretty or hot for me, but it's like, if she's looking hot for you, she's going to be looking hot for every other guy and men out there, and they're going to be all looking at her. So do you really want that attention for your wife?
Yeah, I mean, the Christian brother should not desire a trophy wife when it comes to like showing her off, like, look what I got, and it just goes against principles of scripture from what I see. And it's sad. It's really sad. And so many people get upset when we do videos on this topic, but I don't see any other ministries talking about this. And that's the real sad thing to me. We shouldn't have to do this. At least I shouldn't have to do this, but no one else is doing this. And I wouldn't even do this if it wasn't something that Yahweh put in my heart to talk about and discuss, and where I came on and it came from and so on. But it's our physical outer appearance is such an emotional and hot topic, because it's not something that's inward that we can hide and nobody can see at certain points, or we could put on a false face. This is our outside. And people don't realize that it really shows what set apart is all about. And yes, the outside is a reflection of your inside. So your heart will determine. You won't find certain people feeling good about looking a certain way in public and so on. So I don't want to create controversy, but I do want to bring it to people's attention. And I really, really think we could take a great example of coming to close to biblical values by looking at the Orthodox Jewish community, by looking at certain parts of Indian culture and Islam, the community. When it comes to dress, these are all different communities that I believe have a lot more reverence for Yahweh's modesty than most so-called believers today.
And just a fear of God too. Like, I think many believers don't have that even, and that's what's causing everyone to kind of rebel and just do whatever they want, because they don't have that fear anymore.
Yeah, and it's And it's things. I mean, there's so many reasons and excuses, and we hear them all. But when you stop making excuses for what we should be doing, there shouldn't be excuses. There should just be the forgiveness and just repentance and to move forward and not stand still and think, well, I'm okay. And in any other area, if a person was doing something that didn't line up with Yahweh's ideal plan for us, people would probably feel convicted. But when it comes to modesty, that's when people make up all the excuse and everything else. So here's the thing right now. The thing right now is, right away, the question I get is, so is it a sin for me to wear something or not wear something? And in the Torah, just because it doesn't address a particular word, like, for example, from a health standpoint, microwaves weren't even in existence during the scriptural times. So there's no sin, there's no commandment, thou shalt not use a microwave. But it's defiling our temple that Yahweh created. It's not good for us. And so, so even though it's not technically a commandment, and if it's not a commandment, then it can't technically be a sin, right? Because you're not breaking a commandment. But the question we need to ask ourselves is not just to look for these loopholes of what we can get away with and how far we could take it. The question we need to ask ourselves is, what is building up our temple? What is building up, making us closer to Yahweh and farther away? And that's the thing we need to ask ourselves. And I know there are some of you that are watching that aren't really concerned about this. There are some of you that are watching that don't think about this or haven't thought about this. But someone's watching right now that caught their attention, and they're on that line. They're on that fence, and they got to go one way or the other. And they're gonna maybe, hopefully, have to see this, wake up a different person and decide to change. And accountability is really important, and that's another reason why I don't stop talking about this subject. And I have to thank you for the accountability you give me. And this is the accountability a wife and a husband should give each other. And it's an important thing. Now, there's different specific aspects of modesty. There's clothing, there's what's allowed, or what's the areas where we live, and modesty can also be speech. But the thing is, it's, if you're praying, if you're in high heels, wearing perfume, wearing a lot of makeup, revealing your skin, or revealing the shape of your body through tight clothing, and you're thinking that Yahweh is okay with that, or you people say, well, I prayed and he's okay with me like this. There's a lot of spirits that'll speak to you, and it's a deceptive spirit that if you think you're okay when you're looking like that. And the same thing goes through for everything. If you're not living according to Yahweh's word and you think that he's okay with it, you're deceived. And that's what spiritual warfare is. And you've lost, or you're losing if you're letting that deception take place. So you want to feel good about being. There's a reason why they call it set apart, and there's a reason why they call it private parts. Set apart is you're set apart from the non-believers, right? And inside and outside. And the private parts are supposed to be private. They're not supposed to be for the public to see. The world today goes different. I have a whole topic on or lectures on this, but the culture today is just backwards. And I do think somebody just wrote about fleeing from youthful lust. The whole idea of communal living, I think more and more about it as time goes on, because if you find the right community where people are following particular guidelines when it comes to our outer appearance and also the things we should be doing and so on, it could definitely make a difference. But we do live in the world, and we have to get along in the world, and it's not It's not a good thing. So we've run into some issues. And we have a lot of people we know, and also when we go to in public or in fellowship, there's the idea of a congregation should be come as you are, but it shouldn't be stay as you are, right? We should always change, and we should always grow. And and if somebody's there for a long time, hopefully, men are supposed to speak to the men, women are supposed to speak to the women. There's a way to address certain things in scripture, but these things aren't being addressed. And I think it's creating a problem and keeping people from experiencing the amazing things that Yahweh wants to do in our lives. And I know a lot of people contact me for, they pray on our prayer groups, and they ask him for a lot of things. And more than anything else, the joy that Yahweh wants to give us. I think people are harming themselves and keeping themselves from experiencing this joy by living against Yahweh's guidelines and instructions, and these struggles that are happening with these things. So yeah, I mean, the Orthodox Jewish community, they have a no tolerance stance for immodesty. And some people will condemn them, because if you're in certain parts of Jerusalem and you walk in immodest, they will, even get physical to get you out of that neighborhood. They don't want you in that neighborhood at all. Same thing with other cultures around the world. But you go to church immodest and people welcome you like they don't even, it's weird. If you went to a church today, a typical church in the United States, dressed extremely modest, somebody at the church would most likely approach you and say you're causing too much of a distraction, or why are you here, or something. But if you went to a church today like you're going to a disco club, you'd probably fit in and nobody would say anything in a negative way. They might actually compliment you on what a nice dress you're wearing, or how nice your hair looks, or something else. And so, this isn't just about for women, this is for men also. And for myself, I don't know if the word vanity would fit as much as pride, but men should do their best to cover up as well, especially today. We always hear that men are more visual and women are more emotional, but I don't know if it's because of the hormones that are in the foods today and everything else, but I'm hearing now a lot of women, are very visual and struggle with the same topic these days, and it creates a problem, so, I mean, what do you do? Do you ask people to just turn off their TV sets and just not go in society? I mean, you can't do that. So you have to get along and so on. But I just have a desire. The more I see immodesty, the more modest I want to be. Maybe it is to set an example, or maybe it's just because it's just reminding me how I don't want to be. But I just want to be that more modest. And another example besides these communities around the world, you have it here. If you go to an Amish community or a Mennonite community, I don't know if anyone's watching that's Amish or anything like that, but I know for a fact that in Orthodox Judaism and in Islam, adultery, in certain Indian cultures around the world, adultery and fornication and these things are not at the same levels as they are as in the world, or as in typical Christianity. And you could say the same thing about divorce. All the places around the world that practice modesty according to biblical principles have a much lower divorce rate than the typical culture out there. And if you're going to be extreme, people, at least be extreme in the right direction and not the wrong direction. And yeah, and it's so I try to help people understand this, and people don't know. I'm gonna find this notice. So we put something on our house here. I don't even think people look at it when they come in.
Well,
But what happened was, so we have a fellowship here in the house, and or we had a fellowship here in the house, and people would come each week to the house, and sometimes people would call us up that were new to our fellowship, and they would come, and I would say on the phone to them real quickly, oh, but we're a modest house, we want people to be modest. And people would, oh, we get it, we understand, we agree with you. And then they would come here and they'd be immodest. So we were at a fellowship in Georgia. I love this community in Georgia. And they had a sign on the door, and it just kept it nice and simple here. And I'll read it. And the sign basically says, please take off your shoes. Modest dress, please, men and women. Modest neckline for skirts or for shirts. No tanks or string straps, sleeveless. Loose fitting pants, skirts, or shorts. At least to knee, but preferably longer. That's it. That's simple. That's we keep it. And from a percentage standpoint, so 2 questions. From a percentage standpoint, number one, how many people do you think even read this?
That have come already. I mean, I don't think many.
And those that read it, how many of you think that actually applies to it?
Not many either.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody would say, oh, I read that, and even if they say they agree, but they'll say like, I agree, but at the same time, they're not doing what it says. And I don't know how it is in the fellowship, and the whole idea of how to deal with when something like that happens is a whole nother story. And we're here on, on YouTube here, just trying to bring up this discussion, but, I don't know how people feel about this. Again, we don't necessarily want to be preaching to the choir here, but somebody says it well, Satan has been working overtime in these last days.
Oh, yeah.
And when I street evangelize, the streets are flooded with sin, or evidence of sin is everywhere. And people all of a sudden, they look for dirt. Where's the dirt in the street? And then you look how people are walking around. And by no means, we're not perfect, folks. And we're not necessarily claiming to be. And we're not talking about perfection. We're talking about being extreme in the right direction, I guess. And I open this up here, and I'm sure we'll get some comments later, because some people seem to be pretty upset, and myself or the ministry, for even bringing up this topic. And here I am now to bring this up and ask any of you about it, what your issue is. What's your issue? If any of you have an issue, here is my. Why should a man be talking about a woman should dress, and so on and so on? So,
but I think men should, because obviously they do struggle. So it's like, if you're telling women to dress a certain way, it's like you're kind of saying, hey, whether it's you or other men, it's like, hey, we struggle, so do something to cover up and not tempt us, and that should be enough. But apparently women just don't even care about tempting men. It's like that's what they want to do.
Yeah, and you don't see it too often, but it would be I'm sure it happens, especially in New York. There's people are honest in New York, but it's like, if you're a guy and then there's another guy walking with a really immodest woman, and if that guy is staring at the immodest woman, of course the guy that's with is going to get upset and try to be a macho man. Hey, why are you looking at my woman? Now most people would run away. Oh, no, I wasn't looking. But from New York, we don't say it with a, why is she dressed like that? If you don't want men to be looking at her, have her put on some clothes or something.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, I feel like just telling people that, if I saw a transaction like that, just going up, hey, if you don't want him looking at her, have her put on some clothes, look how she's dressed and so on. But it's more now than ever before. So there seems to be a lot of questions pants, and I guess pants and makeup is the most questions, and by the way, from a scriptural standpoint and just from a principle standpoint, pants, in scripture, in the question that comes up is, pants for women are fine under a skirt. Under a skirt. That's, if you feel you need to wear pants, wear it under the skirt. So pants are fine, but I could tell you that the designers know what they're doing, and the designers know what happens, and so on, and with the way the pants are designed and so on. And a lot of women are very deceived to think that pants doesn't show off their body. And some women say, oh, these pants are loose pants, so it's different. A lot of deception going on out there when it comes to these things, and some people just don't want to hear it. And then the sad thing is when people come to fellowship and stuff, and then you tell them, and then they don't want to do anything about it. And like they get defensive, like, oh, too bad, or something. And it's like,
they don't want to come in fellowship anymore, or
yeah,
they get just offended.
Yeah. And I like, there's what ministry was it somewhere where just like in Judaism and in Islam and certain other cultures around the world, when they go to congregate, the men and the women are separated. But there was a Christian.
Gino Jennings was one of them.
Oh, Gino Jennings. Yeah. Gino Jennings is a popular Christian evangelist online. But basically the men and the women are separate in his congregation. And that's I like that idea a lot, And an issue I always had is, I love to dance and I love to worship, but I always had an issue when I go to a congregation or a church where they dance either on stage or in front of everyone. If you want to dance, sometimes you could have that circle in the back of the room, but I want as little distractions as possible. And some of these places, we saw something the other day. We saw a lady that was singing very nice, but the dancer was completely immodest. Did I show you that? Yeah. The woman that was dancing was completely immodest. And it's just not a good example of a church that's in order, or a congregation that's in order when it's like that. And you can't speak to the youth today because you look at their parents, and their parents are probably the ones they get the example from. Yeah. And we don't see anything wrong with that or something like this. And it's really sad. And so
it's sad that they kind of find modesty more embarrassing than kind of dressing like the world. That's kind of more normalized than modesty, which is unfortunate, but I guess that's the world that they live in.
Yeah, exactly. And the enemy is very, very deceptive, and people don't get this. So somebody here says,
Pam.
Oh, no, this one here. Somebody says, how to wear hair, I have long hair, how to wear hair. Now, I can't think of, any part more. I know it's late. It's getting late. I just had to get this message out here tonight, but I can't think of anything more of worship in today's world and made an idol out of than hair. And I'm not saying you all do this, but but hair. It's just women will go to beauty salons and parlors
and style and all the rest.
Yeah, and they have to have their hair a certain way, and it's not a good thing. But in general, Hollywood knows this, because right before they have a love scene or something, before they break away the commercial, well, at least in the old days, they used to break away a commercial. Now they don't even break away the commercial, but the woman put her hair down. As soon as their hair came down, you knew what was going to happen. Today, maybe they show a bedroom door closing or something, but in those days, as soon as a woman's hair came down, they break away to a commercial, and then they wake up the next day smoking a cigarette in bed or something. And, so, if somebody's not going to decide to cover their hair, my, understanding of modesty will at least be wear your hair up, at least, if you're not going to cover it. It's a very it's an interesting subject. So I wouldn't necessarily say you have to cut it, because when you look at the world today, I mean,
What's a guy?
oh God, okay. Most women that have cut hair today, short hair today, usually resemble something else, or kind of connect with a different type of community. I'm not saying that about everyone. I'm just saying a woman's hair is her glory and so on, and and it's a wonderful thing for a husband to see. But it's also something that should be cherished, and not just so freely out there, because it does create a lot of attraction. Yes. So yeah. So it's I don't know if well, I guess some vanity is connected to this, because people, if they have a nice body, they want to show it off, right? But that shouldn't be the attitude. It shouldn't be your attitude if you're truly a believer, and it shouldn't be the thing you focus on. Somebody else I knew recently was in a picture with his wife, and this is important, because I made mistakes. We make mistakes, but if you have old pictures on the internet that were immodest, and now you've come to a different understanding, and now you're modest,
Should take him off.
yeah, don't leave those pictures up there. Take them off, and don't be posting new old pictures, but take them off. And but I understand the temptation and the trap. See, so I'll show you a problem I got myself into. I mean, if you watch my more recent videos for the last many years, I pretty much don't wear short sleeves and never a tank top and so on. But I'm a health teacher, and I'm a vegetarian, and I've been so for many years. And people don't understand. They think, oh, vegetarians are weak and they're skinny and you can't put on muscle being a vegetarian. So I fell into this trap of trying to encourage people that you can be healthy on this type of diet. And I made a mistake. I took a picture in a tank top to show off my muscles, to teach people that, you can build muscle on a vegetarian diet. And later on, I realized, I shouldn't have had a picture like that up, but I didn't remember to take them all down. And someone, oh, you're immodest and you're a hypocrite. Look at you, because you're on here. And so we really do need to be careful and consider social media when something gets out there. So there's a question if women should cut, if men should cut their hair, and a man shouldn't have the same appearance as a woman. So, there's a Nazarite vow where men don't cut their hair, and they let the hair grow for a certain amount of time, depending how long it is. So men don't necessarily need to cut their hair, but I do believe that a man shouldn't have the appearance of a woman, and
vice versa too.
Vice versa. But I think, and it's not meant to be in a comical way, but it's something that I think makes sense, that a man's beard should be longer than his hair. So if a man wants a short beard, he can have short hair. But if he's going to have really long hair, at least have a really long beard, so it differentiates himself between a man and a woman. And I mean, and that's for somebody looking in the front, but in the back, it's not, because they just see long hair. So it's best that a man present himself as a man. And we know, people could say, well, Yeshua had long hair, so we hear, but there's no actual true pictures of him. And he definitely looked a lot different than most people would think. So I don't even give that argument an argument discussion. But basically, we shouldn't cut our hair or our beards to mimic things that are not of Yahweh. So many men these days get goatees, and it's, again, appearance doesn't take out the intent and so on. But The reason why they did goatees in the old days was because they wanted to mimic the goat god, the gods that looked like the goat appearance, which was like a goat body with a man's face and so on. But now it's the style. And the scriptures, when the scriptures say that a man should not mar the edges of his beard, the point was that he should not do what the Egyptians did, and he should not look like them. He should look like an Israelite and not like an Egyptian. And the Egyptians were making all these funny shapes in their beard and so on. So it wasn't to take on these types of images. So you can be upkept, you can be neat and trimmed, but you just want to be careful. And ultimately, Yahweh is the one you should ask these questions to. If you're a man with hair, you don't want to cut it, or if you're a woman and you have long hair, how should you wear it? Ultimately, it's Yahweh's the one you should really pray to Yahweh. Yahweh, I don't want to create a distraction in a negative way, because creating a distraction in a positive way is a good thing. If you're creating a distraction because you're too modest, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but created a distraction in a negative way. So I don't want to create a negative distraction. I don't want to cause any mental lust. I want to take on the appearance of if I'm a man, if a woman, and pray that. Now, if you're in a bikini with high heels or makeup, or even if you're going to work and a woman in a business suit, business attire with makeup, and Yahweh's not going to make you feel good about that. And if you think he is, that's not his spirit talking to you, and I mean, the reality is, and you tell me, you're a woman, most women know when they're dressed a certain way and heads turn, right?
Yep.
I mean, even
and they do it intentionally too.
Yeah, I mean, they must like the attention, right? Yeah. So you're a woman. If you're dressing a certain way, if you're wearing extra lipstick to make your lips all, but when guys are looking at certain parts of your body and you enjoy the attention or not. And from what I think is, women enjoy the attention if they're interested in a guy or something. But if it's like somebody that they're not interested, all of a sudden they call that guy a pervert. But if they like that guy, they're like, oh, I'm honored. It's just I have a whole nother idea of just the world today and how it's so backwards, and it's really difficult to be women today, but it's really difficult to be men today as well, because it's just a backwards world we live in here today. But again, I know there are people on here that know this, but does anyone see, and I don't contribute it just to the end times, but does anyone see and agree that now more than ever, because for me, this last month, it's just been unbelievable what I've been seeing, and not just from non-believers, so-called believers as well. And for people to just act like it's normal and there's nothing wrong about it, we should be getting not upset, but concerned about this. We should be getting concerned about this. And I don't want to be anywhere near it. And I'm never one to just run away and hide, but I feel like I just don't want to be around it at all. But somebody has to be out there talking about this and so on. But it's like the same thing, the other topics we speak about the food we eat, but about like the alcohol and drugs and so on. And somebody actually contacted me recently and said, oh, I know you don't agree with marijuana, and I know you don't agree with alcohol and stuff, but I drink and I smoke, and if it bothers you, well, too bad. This is what I believe in, and so on. And I'm hearing this and I'm thinking like, and this person calls himself, a believer. It's not, I didn't say they're struggling with alcohol and smoking. They like do it and they enjoy it and they don't see anything wrong with it. And it's really, I think there's an emptiness in people that they have to, they need that attention, or they need something. And if you're somebody out there that's suffering from this, the vanity or the immodesty attention or something, you need to question Yahweh about it. Like, what is it? What's missing in your life so much? Do you need other men or other women to value you and look at you like you're more than or less than a woman of Yahweh or a man of Yahweh, and just putting you at a flesh value. It's not a good thing.
Yeah.
So, and okay, so wait, let's see. Does anyone in this chat have an opinion? I don't think he is going to he's going to answer my question. I don't have much to wear. That's what I've been thinking about wearing to gather. All right, so let's answer this question. Let me go back and find the question. If you want to post your question again, let's see. Okay. What about wearing a pair of jeans with a flannel tied around the waist to cover the behind? Is this still considered immodest? Let me change gears here, at least for tonight. Let me say this. Let me not tell you what's modest or immodest. Let me say that these are things to pray to Yahweh about. And I believe if you're bringing up the question alone, it's questionable.
Mhm.
And it's a good thing you bring up the question. I'm not the authority on this, because if you agree with me, then you're going to be like, great, you're going to feel good. And if you disagree with me, you're going to get upset at me. But I'm going to take myself out of this. And the question is, what about wearing a pair of jeans and a flannel tied around the waist? Do you believe that this is modest? Ask Yahweh that. Search out the scriptures and see what the scriptures say about this. Is modesty only about covering your backside if you're wearing jeans and so on? I mean, what about the front side of the jeans? And so on. And if you're covering yourself front side and backside, well, now aren't you wearing just a dress over your jeans? Has that changed the thing a little? And what if it gets cold and you take that sweater off to put it on and so on? But that's my thing. If you have to go outside of your house and cover up or have a flannel around you so you're not showing off your backside, well, right there, that's kind of evident that you're wearing something that's immodest, but I'm not gonna. I have another night I'll go into and I'll discuss what I would see as modest or immodest in my opinion, based on from my understanding. But really just pray about these things. So so I'm trying to read the comments here.
Answer.
Huh?
That's the answer to that question.
So the answer is, if that's all you have, don't worry about it. Yahweh understands you are making an effort to be modest and feminine, and that's all that matters. Yeah, well, I think Yahweh provides when we seek, and if we seek modest clothing, it's a good thing. I think too many women out there, have the idea of, well, if that's all you have, don't worry. What do you think about that comment?
It's like the first time ever I don't want to say something to offend, but I mean, as she said, if that's the only thing you have, then somehow that's all you have. But I mean, I don't think necessarily that jeans are feminine, especially obviously if they are tight, they are obviously showing your whole figure. But yeah, on the same hand, if that's all you have, that's all you have.
Well, yeah, so my idea of that would be is, if that's all you have, if all you have is something that you might not think is modest, and I'm not saying this is the situation with this, but if you think something might not be modest, I wouldn't necessarily say, well, that's all you got, so don't worry about it. I would say, well, until you get something, however, that you might feel more modest in, maybe limit where you're going or who's viewing you and so on. So if all you have is, let's say, immodest clothing or clothing that's not really, preferable that you would want to wear. If you have to be somewhere, you have to be somewhere, and you got to be somewhere. But let me put it this way. Okay, let me try to put it this way. If you're wearing something that in your mind is questionable if it's truly modest or not, and there's two different streets to walk down, and one's a crowded, busy street, and another street is not as crowded, and there might be less men on that street, and less traffic on that street, but it's still a safe street. It's just a lot less people. Well, then, considering, and even that street might be a little longer, it might not be shorter. Just in that case, considering if you feel there's something that might be not completely great about it, maybe just in that situation, instead of saying, well, I'm not going to worry about it, not that you should worry about it, but maybe just make a wise, conscious choice and even go out of the way, maybe a little bit longer walk, just to draw less attention to yourself. I think that might be a better way to view it than just don't worry about it, and I'm not questioning your answer, because some people feel, well, I'm just not going to worry about it. But I think too many men and women don't worry about or think about this topic enough. And, sometimes people say, well, we don't have modest clothing, so what can we do? Or modest clothing, you can't find modest clothing these days. Now, I'm not a woman. I don't want to be a woman or dress like a woman, but I know in my whole life, everywhere I've been, and I grew up in New York City and I've traveled the world, I don't think there's ever a situation that if I wanted to find modest clothing, I wouldn't be able to find it. I don't see how that reasoning or excuse or whatever one could ever prevail. That I just don't find there's just no modest clothing out there. Maybe I could see for a regular daily basis of going to work, I have trouble finding modest suits every day at work and something, but for a particular situation, modest clothing, it's not. Do you think it's difficult to find as a woman, modest clothing?
No, I think it might be a bit, I don't want to say troubling, but at first for people to transition from wearing, let's say, tight clothing to then going and finding a dress that's loose, and it might not be their style, and then you sort of have to get used to wearing something extremely different. But there's always something to find. It's just a matter of, I guess, style and finding what you like.
And where you're shopping too, and so on.
And you can get stuff from the thrift store if you don't want to pay, so much for new clothes. You can definitely find stuff at the thrift store as well.
Yeah, somebody's asking, do we have to cover with a scarf, or can we wear hats? Now, again, we're not here tonight, at least, to tell you what you have to or should be doing and so on, but just pray about these things. And if Yah puts it on your heart, or if you question what you're wearing, you really don't have to do anything. It really comes down to, the question shouldn't be, do I have to do this? The question should be, how could I best please Yah? That should be the question. And, and remember, it's not about, when we discuss this, we're not getting into, is this a salvation issue or not? And in a degree, we're not even talking about sin. We're talking about how we can best please Yahweh.
Exactly.
So let's see here. So Tom says, some interpret Genesis 3:21 to mean that we should all be wearing tunics that cover the form, men and women. I have nothing wrong with that.
No.
I have nothing wrong with that idea. And I think it wouldn't be a bad idea. I actually wish that's the way it was. Yes. Okay. And Yahweh's working on all of us. Trust me. I don't know many people in this world that had such a little respect for the idea of modesty than I had, or gave it a little less thought than I had. So it's not and still, I mean, we could do much better. We could still do much better. And we go back and forth with some ideas, and we try certain things, and but the challenge shouldn't be from the world, though, but I mean, the sad thing is the Christians and the believers, that they have an issue
Mhm.
with drawing good attention to yourselves. So
Sorry, we're just reading your comments.
yes, reading the comment. Well, yeah, it's we all want to improve, and but the thing is, we should set good examples. And like I tell a lot of people is we're on a team, and we have to represent, and the uniform we wear expresses and shows what team we're on. And most times today, you can't tell the difference between worldly people and not worldly people. And scriptures always say our attitude and a lot more is just beyond that. But let me give you a great example. So the other day, I have a channel where I talk about fruit trees and growing fruit trees and so on. And somebody tells me they have this wonderful land with all these fruit trees, a place I didn't even know, and it's right near my house. And I was really excited to go there. I really was. I want to film all these trees and so on. And so I'm getting ready to make plans to go there. And the guy tells me, "Oh, I forgot to tell you one thing, though. We're a nude community."
Oh, wow.
A nude community. And I was like, so the old me I wouldn't care less about that. It doesn't mean I had to be nude, and it still doesn't mean I have to be nude. I could still go there, but everyone else there is nude. And I was like, that's going to create a problem, and, I just don't want to put myself in that situation. And it's not like the Playboy Mansion where these like young women running around naked. I mean, it's mostly retired people, but still, I don't want to put myself in that situation. It's not anything I want to be near in this time of my life. And, in my past life, or in my past, it wouldn't have got my attention as much as it did now. And I just told a person, the only person I want to see naked is my wife. Thank you. And, but he said, well, you can come on a cold day. Maybe nobody will be out. But yeah, so just our attitude towards these different things. And let's see. But I should still have that same attitude towards the world.
Pretty much.
Because people are literally, when you look at the definition of what nakedness is and showing off the form of the body, and I should have that same feeling. Not that I want to lock myself in a closet, but today we were somewhere, and we were in a dentist office, and I promise you, I could not tell you. If you gave me $1 million, I can't tell you what that woman was wearing, what she looked at. All I knew is an immodest woman was coming towards the door, and I completely looked the other way, and I don't know exactly how she looks or anything else. And it's but it's just crazy. It's just crazy. And I heard the woman, I think she might have been a kid's mother or something. I don't even know, or somebody's wife. Yeah. The way she was, and I was just like, this is just, but it should, I got to a point where we should treat the world like, if we live in a nude community. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And somehow, some way, Yahweh in his joking and his funniness put us in a nude community. And now how are we going to get along? I mean, I should just like I'm in that community filming these nude people amongst those fruit trees. What am I supposed to do? I'm going to walk out of this house, and there's going to be nude people everywhere. Now, they're not completely nude, but they're showing off their private parts. They're wearing yoga pants. They're just, and it's beyond just nude. I mean, somebody once said to me, "Oh, you must have a tough down there living in Florida because it's always hot and people wear as little clothes as possible." Well, in colder environments, people wear tight clothes and certain clothes to cover up many of their imperfections.
Yeah.
So that doesn't necessarily make it any better sometimes. And then the problem is, here's the real issue that people don't understand. And I don't know anyone teaches on this, but this is what Yahweh showed me. And this is what the truth is. And I know this. You know, we have cats. This is important for you to understand. We have cats. And this must drive people crazy when I say this stuff, because so many people get upset. And you all, here you are commenting, all you agree and so on. Watch the comments I get off this after, how many people start cursing me out and yelling at me and screaming at me and all this stuff. But here's the thing. We have stray cats, okay? And when those cats are in heat, you know, they know the other cat's in heat. There are signals that are sent between the cats, and there are certain feelings that are sent between those stray cats. And one of those signals is, guess what? The female cats walk up with their butt higher in the air. That's a message to them to let all the male cats in the neighborhood know, say, hey, I'm in heat. I'm ready to make some babies. And when you get it to a human level, there's only a 2 or 3 day window that a woman could actually conceive. And her body transforms during that time. And so does her attitude. But there's only a 2 or 3 day window in that time. And when a man and a woman are mating, the woman's features transform. It's an attractive thing or an attraction thing. And basically, it's a signal that I'm ready to mate. And the makeup community, the face painting, makeup / fake up community mimics that look every single day of the month, not just the 1 or 2, 3 days, or not just between the husband, every single day. So the only man that should see his wife in this particular state at this particular time in this particular way should be a husband, and this attraction where the woman's saying without saying a word, I'm available, I want you right now. But the makeup community and the hair community and even the clothing community has made it a way where it mimics that particular look. And just like that cat's in heat, the woman walked down the street and she's saying, without even saying a word, through the way she's dressed and the makeup she wears, is, I'm in heat and I want to find somebody to mate with. And the men pick up on that, and they just want to, and they just can't help it, because male cats will go do any crazy thing just to find that. And this is what the signals being sent out there today through TV and everywhere else. And this is why not only you have all these people with these problems, but you even have the pornography industry is just rampant, even among the Christian church today, because of all this stuff going on. So those of you that don't think face painting and all this makeup and everything isn't creating a problem, it is, because when you look at the history of that and you understand what I just said, it's a crazy thing, but it's real and it's true. And and it's completely different appearance and a look. And this is what the enemy just wants to happen. And and the whole thing with the backside up and everything else. And it's just, and the transformation that takes place when people do these different things. It's like, remember that movie with Jim Carrey years ago, The Mask, when he put that mask on, that's how it is, and you see how people get when they get into this place. And you know what is very interesting, because it's not just that. When you look at the transgender community today, what the transformation is, what is when a man takes on the appearance of the woman, right? It's not about a man wearing makeup. It's about a man creating that face and that, oh, I'm in heat kind of look to try to attract. Who are they trying to attract? The man that wants to be a female to attract a man. So even these men know it. These transsexual, gender, whatever you call them, men know what the women don't know. They know what the makeup does. They know this attraction because they're men, and they know what they're attracted to in their true feelings and how they should be. The women don't understand this. The women will just wear makeup and put lipstick on and think, oh, it's just lipstick. What's the big deal? But a transgender man, he's put lipstick on. He says, well, I know how this stirs up the things that I'm trying to avoid, because I know what it does, and I know the attraction of what it's sending, and I know the message it's sending. And, but then they do it on purpose. But then the women know this, and a lot of them know it too, and they know on purpose. They don't understand the connection thing I'm talking about, but they know it. And when a woman's wearing things like red lipstick, and just trying to get her lips all plump and her cheekies rosy and all this other stuff, and perfume and all these seductive smelling perfumes, and it's just, this is the way the world we live in. And we live in a new society, and it's and we were just talking here earlier. We know a community that we go to sometimes, and I would say they don't dress according to the standard or the level that Sister Laura and I would consider completely modest. However, it's a different spiritual environment than the world. And even though they don't dress that way, the spiritual environment is different there, where there's a comfort there, as opposed to the world. And it's a really profound thing when you see these things, and when these things happen in different areas. So yeah. Let's see.
Someone had a comment before.
No troublemakers are here yet, but there, I'm sure in the comments later there will be.
Someone said prostitutes had more modesty in the 20s than modern regular women.
Absolutely, absolutely, 100%. And and for me, just being a brother, I mean, this is a great book. I'm gonna read this and address this one night. It's called The Sin of Bathsheba. It's a really wonderful book if you can get a copy of it, by Mount Carmel Publications. So I'm going to read this another time, but it's really discusses a lot about that. So yeah, well, we appreciate you all being on here with us here tonight, and just thinking about these different ideas and so on. And we just lift you all up in prayer and hope our eyes can be opened up, and our hearts can be opened up to just try to help one another. Yeah, the idolization of makeup and the idolatry of it, it's a sad thing. But I know a woman told me she can't even go out from her front door to throw the garbage out
without it.
Without it, from a front door to throw the garbage out without it. And it's like, wow. So it's just a sad thing. So somebody's asking, what do you think about women shaping their eyebrows? Is it part of seduction? Oh, do you want to answer that one?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it is. But I mean, I know some people, like, for example, me, who back in the day when I was a teenager, used to actually, even like very early teens, unfortunately, where, you watch movies and you see all these actors or actresses, and you're like, oh, their eyebrows are nice. And then you sort of pluck your eyebrows, so much so that now it won't grow for me. And so I think sometimes, I wish I could get my thick eyebrows back. But I think if you're sort of shaping it, I guess, for the purposes of, well, what part of purposes, then I think obviously it is part of seduction. But, if you're sort of like, oh, I plucked all my eyebrows and I want my eyebrows back, I don't know, it could be somewhat of a difference. But yeah, I don't know. You?
It's sculpture and things. Somebody brought up a great point here. Somebody said Joseph in Egypt, he was unrecognizable to his own brothers, even though they hadn't seen him in years. It says they didn't recognize him. He didn't look like a Hebrew. He was shaven, which is a whole nother, that's another thing too. Shaving, the obsession of shaving. That's another whole nother topic, but it still has a modesty issue connect to it, I believe. But they shaved his face. They probably took off his eyebrows. He probably have a funky haircut.
Yep.
They didn't even recognize him. And yeah, so
and Lander says, I draw my eyebrows on. Where did it go? I think you just moved it. Oh, only because they are nearly non-existent and I make them look normal. I kind of, yeah, I feel you there. Mine are somewhat non-existent, but yeah. So
what?
Yeah.
So what? I mean, normal. Here's my question. They make you look normal according to who? Like who like, do you want to be normal in the world? And here's the other thing is so you wear your eyebrows like that, and it's a very deceptive thing to men, because like women, when men go out on dates with women, or if they're meeting a woman, and then what happens later? So the woman will go out in the world and wear makeup or eyebrows and stuff, but then when she comes home, she usually takes it off.
Yeah.
But so what? I mean, I'm not a woman. I know some people think, well, you're not a woman, you don't understand, and I get that. But if I couldn't have a beard and all men had beards, I wouldn't grow one on.
Yeah.
Or wear a fake one so I could fit in with everyone, or. And I've thought, my daughter told me, oh, you should dye your hair black, or you dye your beard black, or so on. And I thought for fun, maybe, but then I said, no, I don't want to even go there. Because dyeing, that's another one, dyeing of the hair. I don't know if that's well, I guess it's a modesty thing because it goes with the whole thing with worshiping the hair and so on. But there's nothing wrong with wanting to look young, right? And healthy and vibrant. But I mean, and I guess also with the eyebrows, you got to look at, well, how you wearing them too, because I guess so. I mean, it's.
Well, she said I plucked them all out too much when I was younger. So I'm trying to make them like Yah gave me to begin with, which is,
Yeah. So that's
we're kind of stupid enough when we're younger to actually take out all the hair and change the way we look, and it just won't grow back.
Yeah, and Sister Laura's not calling you stupid. She says we're kind of stupid because we do stupid things, all of us, not we all do. So just don't let us get discouraged with that idea. But we all make mistakes, and I wouldn't consider that necessarily that situation. I wouldn't necessarily think is as bad as other situations, even though, so that might be a good example of makeup. That might be that might be a good example of, I made a mistake and I lost my eyebrows, so I'm just trying to put was originally there. I'm not trying to go and overdo it. So yeah, I stand corrected, and that goes back to our point earlier. Maybe that's not the, so it's one of another, besides just a scar, maybe that would be a reason, just not to draw other attentions. Somebody said Tammy Faye Baker had eyebrows tattooed on her.
Who said that? Oh.
Somebody said that's what happened. Somebody's asking about fasting. It's not the time to talk about that right now, but yeah, and another thing too with the internet that I'm finding is, please, I was talking about the pictures earlier. Think about your picture, your profile picture. Both of you, men and women, but ladies especially, think about your profile picture. This is not just old pictures, but your profile picture. Because another thing I see is, even if they're not showing like a full body picture or something, a lot of the profile pictures are not modest. They have a seductive makeup, and just like a face that you were going out to a disco, not like, because in essence, this is who you are. This is your resume. This is who I represent. So, you know, if on my social media, I want people to see a face that's what, normal or fits into society. So now you're normal. But my suggestion would be is if you're on social media, you know, and somebody looked at you right away, if they have to question if you're a believer, that's not a good thing. Because somebody should know you're a believer without them to say a word. And that's why I think there's a great benefit to head coverings right there. I think every woman who's a believer, and when she takes a profile picture on the internet, should have a head covering if it's a headshot, because it right away shows there's something different about this woman. There's something, it's like a man with a beard. It doesn't necessarily mean to show you're a believer or a Christian or something. Something's different than the average woman because the hair is, oh, I got to take this profile picture. How's my hair? Same thing for a man. You know, I'm going to be clean shaven and so on. No, if you have a beard, there's something different about that person. One of the greatest witnessing tools we have today is our profile picture on social media. And so many people miss that opportunity because of immodesty and in some cases vanity, to fit in like the world and to look like the world. So we want to look our best according to the world. It's one of the greatest missed opportunities for preaching or just for living it as an example is our picture. You know, and some people don't even put a picture at all, which is nice. Some people don't even put a profile picture at all. That's often nice and not a bad idea, but by no means should, you know, if the attraction's not on the body, it shouldn't have to be on the face. We should just look. People should know that I'm talking to a daughter of Yahweh. They should just know, you know, and so. Yeah, so some really good comments here, but a lot of people struggle with this, and sometimes maybe it's understandable if they, but not acceptable, but understandable if somebody has a job. I mean, they know they're going to be fired if they don't come to work in a long, tight skirt and high heels. They might get fired from their job, but so who wants to work at a job like that? And if you're a man and you're expected to wear high heels and a tight skirt, you definitely should want to get fired and not be anything part of that. But but consider these things, you know, your profile picture, your social media transactions and things, and just in general as well, because it works both ways. So yeah, so it makes a big difference. And you know, I know when I worked on Wall Street, I used to have a suit and clean shaven, and then it's, you know, it's people treat you different. And now beards are socially acceptable now. But I've had a beard since I was 20 years old on and off, and there was a time where it wasn't socially acceptable. And I did it more at first for reasons of just, I like to be as natural as possible. And when I got out of corporate America, one of the first things I did was let my beard grow. And, you know, but I've had different phases and different styles and so on. And it was never from a vanity standpoint. My thing is, whenever I mow the lawn outside, everything looks so clean. And then when I let it go, it just goes everywhere. And then so when I realize the same thing with my beard, sometimes I let it go and it's everywhere, but other times it's if I keep it a little shorter, it's a little clean. So it's so when you know my beard's really big and all over the place, my lawn probably hasn't been mowed in a while. But then when it's mowed, it's different. But yes, so I know some of you are just joining us late, but it's already late, and we're getting ready to get ready for bed so we can get up in the morning and do our morning prayer. Okay, somebody says, and this isn't Frank saying this is his wife. I've already addressed it. It's hard for me to wear head coverings. I get headaches. Any suggestions about that?
I think maybe you might be wearing your head covering a bit too tight. I noticed that when I first back in the day, even when I was Muslim, you know, starting to wear head coverings, it's usually when I make it really types. So maybe just find different styles that you could wear it that, yeah, a bit more looser, but still cover.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. And a question I often get is a baseball cap considered a head covering, or they have to wear it more towards a certain style? And it's like I already spoke about the hair being up or down, but in my opinion, like Mother Teresa wouldn't have looked like Mother Teresa in a baseball cap.
Yeah.
And not that we should aspire to look like Mother Teresa, but again, we want to be set apart and different. So if you're wearing, if you have a picture, a profile picture, and you're wearing a baseball cap versus your head's covered like more in a biblical way, and I'm not saying a Muslim way, because this is more Christian and than Muslim when you look at the history of it. But in general, you want people to see a difference. And if you have a baseball cap, they might not know, they might not see you any set apart and so on, especially if you're wearing makeup and drawing attention to your face and so on. But, this is, people need to get this and understand this. We just saw, it was so cool. It was a woman, it was a basketball, a girl playing basketball in a full head covering and a full dress and so on. She was wearing too much makeup though. But it was really cool to see what can be done and how it's done. So, but I know there's going to be people that are going to not only disagree with me, but like really be rude about this video and so on. And they talk about oppression of Muslim women, and talk about how men need to get their eyes out of the gutter and all this stuff. And I'm not trying to be here tonight telling people how to be dressing, and I'm just telling them, we need to do our best to please Yahweh. And if you think, well, I please him just the way I am and I'm fine, and I could drink my beer, and I could smoke my pot, and I could wear my makeup, and I could show my backside, he don't care about that, he cares about my heart. Well, I just pray for you. I pray for you. And pray for me, because I do want to get over not the frustration, but, I want to have joy all the time. And just to joy, even if I'm around immodest people, that I could look aside and take joy to know that I know this truth, at least in this area. And Yahweh's just blessed me in a lot of these areas. So everybody, try to make a change and try to be different. And we've been looked at, and people have made comments, but they definitely know we're not part of the world or normal according to this world. And yeah, so all right, everybody, thank you for watching here tonight. And you can post your comments or questions below the video when they come. And if you agree with the things we were saying, maybe when some women come on here and start saying negative things, maybe you can get under there and comment to them to help them, not to get into debates with them, but to help them. Yeah. All right, everybody. So Yahweh be with you. Have a blessed night.
Shalom.
And shalom. And Father Yahweh, just help us all to open up our eyes and close our eyes at the right times, Father, and just have our hearts to just be modest and put a modest message on all our hearts. And if anyone's struggling with this, just help them, Father. And thank you. In Yeshua's name, amen. All right. Hallelujah. Have a great night, everybody. Shalom.